Alright, moment of truth. Summer has ended for step 3. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm excited. Let's go. Move to the next step? Yup. I said yup. Alright, let's get into it. Moths bounced against your window, attracted by the light of your room, a siren call in the slowly darkening sky. Just as the day was coming to an end, so too was summer. Liz would be moving back into the dorms before long. Luckily, Lee had been able to come stay for a short trip before her own new journey began. She'd officially been accepted to her first choice college a few weeks ago. Yay! Good job, Lee. This was her last chance to see you all in person for... You flicked through the plans for the next few months, realizing that you didn't even know where you'd next have the opportunity for everyone to be in the same place again. It was hard to think that you'd likely be seeing even less of your cousin going forward, but you were delighted that she was pursuing her dreams. While you were still with each other, your family was going to have dinner together. As ever, the Holdens were tagging along too. The Chinese restaurant or the tropical place? Let's go tropical! You hadn't really discovered the tropical restaurant until you were a bit older, but everyone's enthusiasm had resulted in so many visits that you'd more than made up for lost time. Liz and Lee were excited to squeeze in another trip before setting off again. Technically, you were getting ready to go out, though your mind was only half on the task. It was a pleasantly warm evening, the kind that epitomized the vacation feeling, and you were in no mood to spoil it by rushing around. You checked your phone, starting with a quick glance to confirm the time, followed by a speedy scroll through the latest updates. But what snagged your attention was the little envelope icon, telling you there was an email waiting. Your eyes widened as you reviewed the sender. It was about the work you'd applied for. Yeah, I would have been worried. Like, it's gonna be bad. You wished you could roll back the hands of time and make it so you weren't aware of this message, at least until after tonight. You didn't want bad news to spoil your evening, but you couldn't bear to have this looming over you the whole time either. There was no option but to look. You clicked to open the message and waited for it to load, forgetting to breathe in the process. Your eyes darted over the message, rushing past the pleasantries to get to the heart of the matter. The blood pounding in your ears deafened you to the world outside that was contained within these letters. Your heart skidded to a halt as you read your verdict. You've been offered the job! Hooray! Bouncing on the balls of your feet, you pressed your phone to your chest as your excitement bubbled over. Ooh. Yes, I would want Cove to be the first to know. Then my family. Wasting no time, you pulled up his number on your phone and rang your closest friend. You pressed your phone to your ear, waiting impatiently for the dull ringing to be replaced with Cove's voice. It took a few rings, but you were in luck. Cove picked up the call.
Hi, Molly.
You blurted your news without the customary preamble of a greeting. I got the job!
Seriously?
What?
You heard him gasp before continuing, openly gushing over your good fortune.
That's amazing! It's incredible! You did it! Congratulations, Molly.
There was another pause as you and Cove both marveled over the announcement.
No, seriously, this is really, really big. And you deserve it so much. I know it'll be good for you.
Thanks! I just had to tell you right away as soon as I knew. You heard Cove chuckle softly over the phone.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
You wanted to gush about the adventure lined up before you, a dream that you transformed into a plan, one that was soon to become your reality. But your hopes were temporarily dashed as Mom called up from downstairs.
Hey! It's almost time to go! Molly, you ready?
Oh. You covered your phone with your free hand and turned away from the device, not wanting to deafen Cove. The yell was intended to reach another floor of your house, not an ear that was virtually inches away. Coming! You brought your mouth back to the phone. I've gotta go. I'll see you soon.
I mean...
Yeah, there's something I want to tell you too, but we can do that later. We're about to have dinner together.
Okay. That piqued your curiosity, but you exchanged goodbyes and hung up. Hurriedly, you finished getting ready for the dinner, acutely aware that time was against you. Despite that, you didn't regret the time you'd spent on the phone. It had all been worth it to speak to Cove. Now you tell your family. You tore down the stairs, your feet barely touching the ground as you leapt from one step to the next. Your arrival, which compensated for excessive speed by creating a riot of noise, caught Mom's attention.
Someone's hungry.
Her eyes were twinkling, amused, as she let you catch your breath.
So what's the rush for?
I got the job! Mom whooped, holding out a hand for a high five.
You're fantastic.
Oh, well, thank you, Mom.
Nice, Molly!
The commotion had summoned the other women from various corners of the house. Liz looked up from her book, grinning as Lee hurried over. Ma swept in from the side, wrapping an arm around your shoulders and squeezing you close.
Good job.
That's wonderful, sweetie. Hey, let me in on the hug.
She wrapped her arms around you both without waiting for an invitation. Liz, her book neatly abandoned on the floor, tapped her hands in applause as she walked up to you. Good job, Molly! Lee didn't hide her excitement, openly jumping for joy as she treated you to thunderous applause.
Seriously?
It's amazing! You're gonna be amazing!
That's nice, but you shouldn't just stand there. Yeah, there's room for everyone.
Your moms opened up the hug, both keeping an arm around you as they each held out another to invite Liz and Lee in. Giggling, Lee dove into the hug. Liz rolled her eyes, but allowed herself to be beckoned into the group hug. Your mom squeezed everyone together tightly. Yay! Mom's long hair brushed against your face as she turned to check the clock.
Let's go.
We can take this party on the road. We've got to head out for dinner soon.
Nodding, you were aware that your attempts to finish getting ready had been cast aside in favor of congratulating you. I have to do a couple more things first. It won't take long. You hurried back upstairs. Though getting ready to go out was the issue at hand, you couldn't stop your thoughts from drifting back to the future. Your mind was buzzing over the news you'd received and everything that would soon unfurl. Everyone piled into the car. While it was marketed as being suitable to hold 5 people, in practice it made for a very tight fit. Your moms, sitting in the front, were fine. You, Liz, and Lee were squished into the back. Lee in the middle, wedged between you and your sister. But Mom was an excellent timekeeper. Thanks to her efforts, you pulled up near the restaurant on time. The process of getting out of the car was slightly easier than squeezing into it, with much less coordination required to release seatbelts than to secure them. You gave Lee a hand as she clambered out from the middle seat, then headed into the building as a group. A waiter greeted you as you entered. Ma let him know how many of you there would be in total, and he went to arrange a table that met your needs. He returned promptly to guide you to your seats. You perched comfortably in your chair, your head held aloft as if buoyed by today's good fortune. Your family settled down around you, all cheerful and looking forward to the evening ahead. Your drinks order had just been taken when the Holdens came through the door. They were pointed in your direction, though with Mom waving an arm in the air, it was hardly necessary. Cove and Mr. Holden came to join you at the table. As greetings were being exchanged, Cove took a seat opposite to you. It had been left empty by unspoken acknowledgement that you and Cove would be wanting to sit together. Are we that obvious? Mr. Holden sat beside him.
Hi.
It's great to see you. Glad you can make it.
Hello, everyone. You wouldn't believe how hungry I am.
I see.
You came to the right place, then.
There was some laughter, though Liz groaned playfully, shaking her head at Mom's sense of humor. Growing up, she'd have complained, and Mom would have responded by making another comment. Liz had mellowed over the years, but she still made a show of despairing at Mom's jokes. Her reaction to them had become a joke in its own right. Menus were soon passed around, and a temporary hush fell over the table as everyone read. It didn't last long, punctured by comments about what people had eaten here before, and light chatter about what people were considering tonight. Once the waiter had disappeared with your orders, Cliff piped up.
Okay.
So, I've got some good news. Kyra's making a trip out here tomorrow.
Cove nodded, turning from his father to the rest of the table.
Yeah, we talked about it and figured this was a good time for everyone.
Very nice.
That's great! Everyone reacted positively to the news, though Ma looked wistful.
That's a shame.
If only we'd known. Here we are, having a big meal without her. If we'd waited one day, she could have joined us.
Mom patted Ma on the back, gently nudging her from the realm of possibilities and what-ifs and back to the evening that was going so well.
Chin up. Lee and Liz will still be here tomorrow. We'll just have to throw another get-together and keep the fun train chugging along.
Ma smiled warmly, taking Mom's hand in hers.
That's true. There's plenty to celebrate right now, but there will be more good news and good times on the horizon.
Right.
And speaking of, that's not all we've got either.
Mr. Holden's eyes were alight as he sat up straight in his chair, face angled towards his son. He barely let a beat go by before nudging Cove with his elbow, pushing him to follow up on the announcement. He was the very picture of a proud papa. Cove shied from the limelight, ducking his head down and staring at his lap as he spoke.
Well,
It's just, I've switched over to working full-time instead of only part-time. Plus, I've been looking at apartments. There's a few I can choose from.
Wow. Very nice, look at you. He flicked his gaze up at everyone around the table, a smile creeping over his face.
I'll be pretty busy going forward.
Apartments. He was moving. Cove was going to move out of his dad's house. After 10 years, he wasn't going to be your neighbor anymore. Ah, big change. My goodness. 10 years. Mr. Holden gripped one of Cove's shoulders and gave it a loving shake. His excitement couldn't be contained.
Incredible. Cove's actually going to make it to adulthood. It's a miracle.
Mr. Holden leaned back in his chair, staring up at the ceiling in mock wonder.
I'm so glad.
I wasn't convinced I'd be able to rear a kid all the way to this point. But thankfully, I lucked out and got the best boy a dad could have asked for. Dad?
Cove blinkered his vision with his hands on the side of his face, temporarily blocking his father from sight. Despite his genuine bashfulness, which left him unable to meet anyone's eyes after all the attention thrust his way, he was happy.
Thanks.
I was really lucky too. You're a good dad.
Aw.
Come here.
So cute. Mr. Holden threw an arm around Cove's neck, pulling him into as close of a hug as the seating allowed. He rubbed his cheek on the top of his son's head, while Cove chuckled, accepting the affection with good humor. Ma leaned over and whispered in your ear, her fingertips brushing against your cheeks.
Would you like to tell Cove and Mr. Holden what you told us earlier?
Technically, Mr. Holden was the only one who didn't actually know at this point, but your ma didn't find out about your call with Cove. Yeah, I mean, of course. Sure. Your mouth was parched, your tongue sandpaper against the roof of your mouth. Though you took a sip of your drink, the relief was short-lived. There's something I'd like to mention too, if it's okay.
Of course.
I just heard that I got a job. I'll be starting soon. Mr. Holden gave you a thumbs up.
Good kid.
Impressive. You're a good kid. The world's your oyster.
Cove grinned at you from across the table. He was still very pleased for you, despite this not being the first time he's heard about it. You looked around at the faces of the company here. You'd been on this journey with everyone here for years, seen them falter and grow, and they had watched you go through the same. Cove was leaving his family home. Liz was heading back to college, while Lee was starting at hers. You were staying close, but it was clear you were all heading in different directions to different destinations. Some near and some far, but it wouldn't be long until you were all going your own way. Near, far. Yeah, bittersweet for sure. You turned your head to the side, wistful, not wanting to spoil the evening with your troubles. You were glad that everyone was succeeding, but the idea of splitting up gave you a twinge of regret. These people had been key pillars in your life. Days ahead without them, no matter how bright and shiny, felt a little empty, like a theme park after closing time. Your mind filled with the bitterness. Focus on the sweet side. New adventures were still ahead, and you could encourage that optimism. Cove brought some attention to himself with a clearing of his throat and a small interjection.
I'm gonna stretch my legs while we're waiting for the food and everything.
Sure.
Sure thing, bud.
With a tiny smile, he nodded at his dad, but the lightness to his expression faded when he moved to face you.
Wanna come?
He was attempting to be subtle, but there was very obviously something on his mind, something he wanted to talk to you about alone. You watched him with concern as you rose from your seat. Yeah, I'll go.
Take care.
With those parting words, the two of you walked about the place. He was trying to get as far away from everyone else as possible without actually exiting the building. You waited for him to talk. You were sure he would. Cove started pulling on the hem of his shirt. He turned his head back to face you, but it was an awkward movement. Why'd I feel like so anxious all of a sudden? I'm like, what's happening? Like my heart's going like beat, 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 beat. I'm so nervous. Like, yes? What's up, bud?
Well, I wanted to talk to you one-on-one about all this. You know, my work, moving. That's what I meant when we talked before dinner. I mean, it was coming before, but now it's pretty much here.
Yeah, it's exciting. Cove stopped picking at his shirt, and he seemed to respond well to that response. He was relieved you weren't upset about it.
I'm glad you think so.
But then he looked down, and his brows furrowed. You saw his hand shift away from his clothes to instead rub at his arm. Are you looking forward to it?
I am. Well, I'm trying to be.
He ducked his head further, and you saw his face start to redden.
But it's scary. I don't want things to end.
So you're saying you're gonna dress up as the future for Halloween? Come on, you don't need to worry. It may be scary now, but it'll be worth it.
That's not a sure thing.
Cove then turned his head away and wrapped his arms around himself. He felt a sudden chill that definitely wasn't caused by the air conditioner.
It's happening, you know? What I talked about earlier this summer. The world isn't going to keep us together anymore. It'll all be up to us now. But everything is still gonna be okay, right? We're still gonna be okay?
You got mad at him for this? I mean, okay, I'm not gonna say I'm not a little bit worried, because the fact of the matter is, you do tend to lose some of the closeness with people that you don't see as often anymore. It just happens. You get into a routine, you meet new people, you have to like really work to keep bonds strong. And it just changes. Like as you go through life, your bonds change with people. It's just how it goes. So yeah, I mean, I would be worried because I'm like, our relationship's gonna change in some fashion. It's not gonna be the same. So I'd be worried too, buddy. What if you grew apart? What if one day he just didn't want to keep up with his old neighbor? What if you both changed? You just glared furiously at him. Why would you be angry at him in this moment? Yeah, I'd probably be like a little... He's like, oh no! Abort! You blinked as you felt something fall down your cheek. Cove bit his lip.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's me. It's not you. I'm sorry.
I didn't want to make you feel bad by bringing this up. Just, I don't know what I wanted. But I felt I had to say something about this. If not now, then when?
Out of the corner of your eye, you notice a nearby table of people were staring. Cove's outburst had attracted attention. The eyes on you just made things worse. He felt overwhelmed, smothered by everything going on. You couldn't handle this. Wow, I'm apparently not taking this very well at all. I gotta get out! I need some air. Alone. Cove seemed pained, but he didn't protest when you brushed past him and left the restaurant. There was nowhere else to go but out. You stepped onto the sidewalk. A couple cars drove by on the main street, and the breeze hit your face. You took a few deep breaths now that that conversation was no longer suffocating you. You weren't quite sure what to do next. Gaining space had been the only plan. You patted your sides on reflex and pulled out the spare key for your mom's car. Walking fast, you went down the sidewalk to the part of the street where your parents had parked. You remembered going past a particular building on the way into the restaurant, and managed to backtrack your way to the car without incident. You unlocked the car with a shaky push of the button. The headlights flashed. You pulled open one of the back doors and tucked yourself inside. You shut the door and the car beeped when you locked it again. While putting the key away, you switched it out for your phone. There was concerned messages from your family. Were you okay? Was something happening? Another text came in from your sister at that moment. You didn't respond to any of it and held down the power button. I'm curious, does this always happen, or was it just based off my choices? Because I'm like, this is quite the reaction. I wasn't really expecting to go to such lengths. Like, I gotta get out of here. I'm like, yeah, I'm sad about it, but I'm like genuinely mostly optimistic about things. So for me to just be like out here right now, I'm a little like, we good? Everything okay? You looked back at your phone and stared at the black, blank screen. You could see part of your face reflecting back at you. Then you dropped your phone on the seat. I mean, in the instances where I have done this kind of thing before, where I have been overwhelmed with emotion. I usually would do this because I don't want anyone to see me in an emotional state. So I would go to a room, go to the car, like hide down in like this area. Like not even on the seat, like down here, curl up and have a good cry. And just kind of like reset that way. So that's probably what I would do in the situation if I was like this upset. Your eyes burned and you blinked slowly. You felt warm tears drip down your cheeks. Your breath hitched. Suddenly, or maybe not so suddenly, as this had been building for a while, you started to cry. Then you tried to... work through it. Just gotta work on through it. You did your best to reflect on the situation and sort yourself out. A few minutes passed by. You breathed in the quiet. The car started to get warm, but you didn't feel like turning it on to get the AC going or roll down the windows. Yeah, I would just text and say, this is where I am, I'll be out in a second. You picked up your phone from the cushion and pushed the power button. It took a minute to boot up. There were plenty of additional messages. You planned on checking out your family's text later and tapped onto Cove's number first. You could imagine him worrying about you. Hopefully at least knowing you were somewhere secure would be enough. You carefully typed out a hey, and then, don't worry, I'm in my mom's car, and sent them. Cove responded fast. It was almost immediate. Your phone displayed a message that said no, and nothing else. You were about to send a question mark when another text followed.
Can I come in? I'm kind of already here.
What? When you looked up from your phone and out the windows, nothing stood out as obviously Cove-shaped, and he wasn't easy to miss. You were about ready to text him back when you saw a shock of green out of the corner of your eye. Cove stood up. He'd been sitting on the pavement, leaning against the car door. Stop. He straightened out and smiled carefully. He pointed towards the closest car door and raised his shoulders in a clear question. He wanted to know if it was okay to hop in. You nodded, not seeing the point of keeping him awkwardly outside. Cove walked around to the other side of the door opposite of you. He put his hand on the door handle and pulled. He tried to open the door and obviously wasn't expecting it to be locked. You pressed the unlock button and he smiled after he heard the click. He sat down and then quietly closed the door behind him. For a moment, he faced straight ahead. His hands flinched when he got halfway through putting on his seatbelt before he realized that he wasn't actually going anywhere. Relatable. He dropped his arms and the seatbelt slithered back up into the side of the car. Neither of you seemed to know what to say now. Eventually, Cove turned to face you. He seemed serious.
Everyone cared when you left the restaurant. They all wanted to be here, but I promised that I'd look out for you.
He gripped the side of his cushion and regarded his lap.
Like Liz. She told me I'd better not be making things worse, or I'd never be considered a trusted adult for the rest of my life. But yeah, everyone's here for you, even if it's just me in the car.
Man, her whole family really does trust Cove a lot. They're like, yeah, go be with her. You're the one that needs to do this. Thanks, fam. Cove stared deep into your eyes. You noticed he had some redness around his.
You can do it. We can do it, Molly. Make a good life for ourselves. No matter how hard it seems. We can do it.
He gripped your shoulders, and you knew that he was doing his best to project confidence. He wasn't sure about himself, but he was trying for your sake. You suddenly remembered a long time ago and a tiny little boy who had been scared of an unseen monster in the wind. Even though his small fists had shaken with fear, he'd still been as brave as he could because he'd known you were afraid. Cove had always done his best to be strong for you when you needed it. He definitely was not tiny anymore, but he was still taking care of you. Thank you, Cove. He nodded and seemed almost larger than life. That was something about Cove. He could bring out the best parts of you. Cove then studied you from over his shoulder with a soft expression. He twisted his body to the side and held up his open arms. You raised your eyebrows. Hug?
Come on, I'm gonna hug you.
You pulled yourself towards the middle seat so that you could reach him properly. You had to climb over one of his legs that he had resting across the seats. He turned so that he was completely sideways in his seat, back pressed to the car door, and made space in front of him for you. You settled down against him and leaned against his chest. You wiggled in to fit comfortably. He wrapped both of his arms around you and rested one of his cheeks on the top of your head. It was very snug. That sounds so relaxing, honestly. Despite the cramped backseat of the car, Cove was very comfortable, and his reassurance was nice. He was right here, and he cared. It was hard to dwell on future troubles when he was doing his best to comfort you.
Hey.
Hey. His voice was calming, and his eyes were full of his fondness for you. His mouth quirked into a crooked smile.
I have a great plan. We can just stop thinking about the future and all of that.
You had no idea what he meant. He didn't acknowledge your confusion and continued.
I'll still get that little apartment, and you can move in too. I'll stay as close to here as possible, and I'll get a new job on the shopping street.
Huh?
I'll sell pretzels.
What? He lightly stroked your head as he spoke. On the word pretzel, he traced a loop-de-loop shape that you had a suspicion was supposed to be a pretzel. You're stroking a pretzel on top of my head, huh?
You can probably find a job there too. You could also sell pretzels. We'll be business partners.
I would eat all the pretzels.
And then, we'll do that forever. We'd never have to worry about what to do or where to go or letting our lives change ever again.
So?
What do you think?
You laughed through tears. I probably would have, honestly. It was just so ridiculous. You couldn't help but laugh even when you could feel your eyes water. Is it bad that I actually like the sound of that plan?
Not at all.
Cove chuckled, appearing entirely too innocent.
I'm pleased you agree. I can't wait. Pretzels and you.
We will have pretzels for our meals, too. As a start to our day as pretzel merchants, should we get in the mood by eating pretzels?
Yup, you are what you eat. We'll make mini pretzels that we can stick in a bowl, and it'll be just like cereal.
It was fun to not be so serious for a bit, though soon Cove's tone changed.
Molly.
He started to speak, but drifted off. All the sounds of the world outside were muffled and distant. In that space, in that moment, it really felt as though there was no one except you and Cove. Cove softly ran his hand up and down your arm. It felt reassuring. Finally, he was able to continue his thought.
No matter what, you can count on me whenever you need something. Or even if you just want it. We're becoming more independent, but you're never actually alone in this world.
I'll never be rid of you. Thank you. You considered the thought of living with Cove in his tiny apartment in the pretzel plan, or just in general. Look, I'm already falling apart at the idea of, like, things changing. There's no way I'd be like, yeah, we better, like, live together sometime. Just be like, I'm just gonna stay in my Cove blanket and rock myself to sleep. It was still weird to think of living anywhere other than home. You kind of wanted to always be neighbors, always close and always right there. You stole a glance at him. Cove beamed. You felt much better than you did 5 minutes ago. He was your ray of sunshine. Cove turned red but met your eyes. He was happy, even though his blush took over his face.
I guess we should be able to head back without carrying the weight of all of this. That's important, after all.
He paused with a smirk. You anticipated a joke, or at least an attempt at one.
Our hands will finally be free for other things, like eating our meal. So, that'll be nice.
That's true, our hands are free to do other things now. ... Yeah, it really will be nice. You were actually pretty hungry at this point. There was certainly something to be said about freeing yourself from future concern so that you could get around to living what was in your life now. He smiled, pleased at how everything turned out. But in an instant, his smile flickered and disappeared. Cove was serious again. He glanced away from you and wouldn't meet your eyes.
Ready to go back?
I can.
Alright.
The two of you got out of the car. You made sure you grabbed the key and your phone. You started walking towards the restaurant, but Cove stopped you.
Wait.
You spun around to face him. You stood on the sidewalk on the main street in relative silence. You had something to say?
Is
this the time? Whatever else he wanted to say after that was trapped in his throat. You watched patiently as his mouth slowly closed moments after nothing else followed. Cove took a deep breath, and then another. His gaze clung onto you, laser-focused.
There's something I've wanted to tell you about. Something I should have told you a really long time ago.
His voice shook, and there was no mistaking the fear in his blue eyes. Goosebumps broke out across your skin, and you subconsciously started wiping your sweaty palms on the side of your hip.
But I haven't said it. I'm not very good at talking about this.
Your chest was sore from how hard your heart was beating, but it continued to drum faster and faster. Girl, I was there like 7 minutes ago. I feel you. The world around you seemed to slow as you realized Cove was waiting for you to say something. I mean, future Molly has a feeling, but in the moment I would just be like,
I can't breathe.
It's okay. You can tell me. That seemed to be exactly what Cove needed to hear. He smiled softly, and you watched his shoulders start to relax. Cove's expression hardened, his hands balled up into fists.
Molly?
He said your name boldly. but then his confidence faltered as he stared deeper into your eyes. Only a squeak came out next. Yeah, yes. He looks so scared, oh my goodness.
Molly,
He frowned wobbly and his face became a dark red. It was plain on his face that his nerves were spiraling. Then Cove froze completely. You waited for him to compose himself. Instead, he crumpled forward, burying his face in his hands. He can't do it. Not yet, you realize, feeling disappointed. Oh, why are you and I like this? We could have been dating for like the last, 4 years. Oh, we're just made for each other. We're terrible.
Sorry.
Cove continued to hang his head in defeat, and you knew it would take at least one more chance for him. He started on his way, but it was always a struggle for Cove to fully take that next step. You sighed. Well, if this hadn't happened, it would have been weird, right? I wouldn't be exasperated. I don't even know what I would say. Would I just be quiet? I'm gonna go the middle road. I'm just gonna be like, we suck, man. You and I suck. It broke your heart to watch Cove get like that. You didn't want to further upset or overwhelm him, so you did your best to comfort him. Stepping forward, you delicately patted the middle of his back. You were certain that you felt him tremble. That worried you, so you stopped. Awkwardly, you glanced back at the restaurant for a moment, finally remembering what had originally brought you to this place. We should probably go back inside, right? We've been out here a while. Cove continued to hide his face, and you just barely caught his meek nod. That was better than nothing. You started making your way over to the restaurant door. Within moments, you realized that you could only hear the sound of your own steps on the pavement. You stopped and turned, seeing Cove standing in the same spot and position. Cove. Slowly, he lifted his head out of his hands. From a distance, you couldn't quite make out his expression.
No. No, I can't. I'm not doing this.
Finally, he moved. He approached you at a brisk pace, stumbling a bit, and when he got close enough, Cove dropped his hands on your shoulders. The determination had returned to his features, and he leaned his head down to look you in the eye.
I'm always like this. I panic and I quit partway through.
His voice shook a bit at the beginning, but as he lowered to a hushed tone, it evened out. A shiver shot down your spine as you watched tears well up in his eyes.
I'm so scared of things changing and new stuff happening and just everything you have to deal with living a life.
His voice cracked as he continued, though it didn't halt.
But the worst of any of it is thinking about the future and not knowing if you'll be there. And I don't want to be afraid to say that. I don't want to be scared of anything that has to do with us. Not when it comes to you. You're the one who makes me less afraid. When something is horrible, you can make it better. When I feel alone, you're what lets me know I'm not. Sometimes I can't even remember what my life was before I moved here, before you were in it. I was so little, and it was such a long time ago, and it was so hard then. But I do remember those days, when we were just kids, running around the neighborhood. It was like my life had started over. It was a new beginning, and nothing feels more right than you being there. Not just back then, but always.
As much as he tried willing and blinking the tears away, they won. Big tears bubbled and burst from his eyes, and they ran down his cheeks.
Molly.
Ah! Overwhelming emotions! Gave Cove a chance to confess his feelings first. We did it! Yay! Oh, I was screwed each other so badly. We were just too scared to ever confess to each other, this is my life. Ah! I can't believe it's actually happening. It's been 84 years. Ah!
Molly, I want to be with you.
Finally! I want to be with you too. The words came completely naturally. Your mouth pulled into a beaming smile that made you feel like it had a high chance of being permanent. This face of his, like... ugh. There were probably a million moments or more over the years where you looked at him and thought about saying it, but there was nothing stopping you anymore. You wanted to be with him, and now you knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that Cove actually felt the same way about you. We hoped, we dreamed, we schemed. It's actually happening. Confirmation. Cove's eyes widened and his breath hitched. You could feel his hands on your shoulders begin to tremble. The way his expression twisted, you knew that he was struggling to put his thoughts in order. You wondered if he even believed the last few minutes actually happened. It's like, I didn't think I was gonna get this far. Now what?
Is this really all right?
And that was all he could muster in the tiniest whisper. But you knew the weight of those words. You had a long history, and this would change things. Your head tilted towards him as you stared at him fondly, feeling your skin burn hot and your heart beat a mile a minute in your chest. Of course it is. Cove let out a long, shaky breath. He still seemed to have difficulty believing he had spoken those words and that you had returned the feelings. Ah! That's so cute!
Molly, if you want me, can I be your boyfriend? I'd like that a lot. I can't think of anything I'd like more.
His lips quirked into a hopeful smile, eyes still glistening. I definitely want you! You know what? That has to be me, because I had, like, zero chill, so yes, let's do the... I guess I want you! Ah! Let's go. I definitely want you. Jump. You felt a wave of emotion and only one way to deal with it. You readied yourself. You launched yourself at him, pushing off the ground with a powerful kickoff. Yep, no chill. Cove startled, but held his arms out with the sole goal of catching you. Are you sure, Cove? You can back out. You still have time. He caught you and held on like you weighed nothing. The massive size difference being helpful in this regard. Your body had plenty of room against his, and you relaxed in his hold. Amazing. Cove's arm stayed wrapped around your back, and he kept you lifted. He couldn't help but laugh, and it was adorably warm. His eyes prickled with new tears, and he sniffled, but you could recognize equal joy taking over him. You both were happy together. You were together and happy. Yep. You blinked rapidly as tears welled up. You just couldn't stop them. Your joy refused to be contained. Then Cove reached up to caress your cheek delicately. He took a moment to simply cherish you. A peaceful smile grew on his face as his eyes sparkled. Is this real life? I am such a sucker for the "can I kiss you" line. Yes.
Can I kiss you?
Your jaw dropped. No matter what else had just happened, that was not a desire you expected Cove Holden to be capable of vocalizing. You were completely floored. Seeing your reaction made him realize exactly what he had done. He had seriously asked to kiss you. An intense blush covered every inch of his cheeks in absolute embarrassment, but he didn't take it back. You kissed him! I'm sorry, Cove. Yes. Cove looked bashful but resolute and brought his face to yours. Within seconds, you were close enough to feel his breath on your face. Your noses brushed together when he paused, giving you another chance to change your mind. You looked at him expectantly, completely sure of this. Not wanting to deny either of you what you both clearly wanted, he stopped hesitating. Cove kissed you. You returned it without delay. Yay! Yay! So happy. Look at he's so happy. Ah, it's so sweet. The feeling was blissful and longing. He was absolutely still nervous. You could tell from his shaking hands as he cupped the back of your head. However, he wasn't going to let that stop him. Shyness was secondary to being able to kiss you for as long as he could. There was no denying he'd been hoping for this moment ages before it ever happened. You knew this was right. Cove blinked rapidly when you parted, newly stunned, but it was only with amazement. What happened was shocking and unexpected, but he absolutely wanted to hold on to this new thing between you. He ducked his head with a childish giddiness and peeked at you out of the corner of his eyes.
Thanks for giving me a chance to finally get it together and say this.
It took you a while. Oh gosh, I don't even know what to say now. Not this, not this. Maybe this, maybe this. Not this. Oh gosh. For you, I would have waited forever.
Molly. We're gonna have to tell everybody about this when we go back, aren't we?
I honestly, if I don't turn around and either my ma or your dad is not have their cell phone out filming this entire thing, I will be shocked. Then they'll be like, yeah, good job, it finally happened.
I don't think they'll be surprised.
He smiled at you with an unabashed preciousness. You figured that even without your history, if anyone caught Cove looking at you like that, it'd be obvious exactly how he felt. His openness of character had some truly delightful benefits. You must have been making an expression equally as affectionate because he began to fluster again. He made some stuttering chuckles and then quieted down, his mouth forcefully staying closed. You both took in a moment to process. After 10 years of being together, you were officially a couple now. After all of that, you both finally made it back inside the restaurant. Cove was clearly nervous. Now that you were together, your families were going to have to hear about it. But with you by his side, he continued forward. You could feel eyes on you as you took your place at the table. They didn't wait long to start asking if you were all right and what had happened. It didn't help that Cove's face flushed immediately over the attention. Quickly, it all became way too much. You couldn't meet anyone's stare, and under the table, your hands fidgeted nervously. Cove steeled his nerves and faced the small crowd.
Well, the truth is, Molly and I are...
Grins were already beginning to appear around the table before he could muster the full explanation. He swallowed hard, stealing a glance at you.
A couple now. We're dating, though haven't gone on a date yet, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't count, like, the date when you went with me to that, like, dance thing, or the date when I went with you to, like, that charity dinner, or the 3 dates. Yeah, but we haven't a date, no. But now it's official, so it's like, for real, we haven't gone on a for realsy date yet.
It's just, I'm her boyfriend, so, yeah.
Cove stopped his rambling there with wide eyes. He waited tensely for a response. Mr. Holden was first to react, instantly slapping a hand over Cove's shoulder. His other hand smacked against his own chest over his heart. He's like, finally! Oh, it's good.
You did it! That's amazing, Cove. Molly, if you need anything, I am here. Don't hesitate to come to me for help.
Yeah, I'm like, What do you mean I go to you for help? You're the one that comes to me all the time for this boy. Come on now.
What help?
Well,
Son, I'm so happy for you and Molly, of course. Just take care of yourselves. This is either heading towards the breakup of a lifetime or a wedding. And I will be there for either.
Thanks for the vote of confidence, Dad.
oh my god.
Dad.
Love to start a relationship with, like, it's gonna be the messiest breakup in history. Love the vote of confidence. Cove covered the side of his head that was facing Mr. Holden with a hand and sunk lower in his chair in some desperate attempt to put distance between himself and his father's words. Meanwhile, the women in your family all burst into laughter.
Pull back on those reins a little there, Cliff. They're not ones to rush. It took them a decade to reach boyfriend and girlfriend status.
Mom has a point.
Don't worry about it.
I don't think we need to start looking at venues yet. Exactly. This is wonderful news, and all we need to do is congratulate them on it. Molly, Cove, I'm so glad for you both. I know you'll be happy together. We're rooting for you.
Thank you, Moms. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are! Yes, we are! Ah, this is so exciting! I knew you were meant for each other. Well, I called this one. I called it years ago. I should have made a real bet with someone, though I don't think anyone would have been dense enough to bet against it. Cove let himself fall forward, sticking himself to the table surface. There was no getting away from this. He wished they hadn't made a scene in a restaurant. Yeah. He always took this type of attention badly. You gave him a supportive look, though he likely couldn't see it from his position. Once the wave of family teasing and cooing passed, you were able to feel grateful for both families' encouragement. It made you happy knowing just how loved you were. Night fell soon after everyone finished their meals, and before you knew it, you were standing in the parking lot saying your goodbyes and packing up the cars to go home. After the last of the chores were done, your family spent some more time together. You then had some extra time and decided to... An interesting way to end the evening. Curious. Our girl decided to, think of those two guys. I'll bite, Jer Bear. It had been a while since you got his number from Shiloh, but you'd never actually attempted to reach out again so far. You thought this might be a good moment to go for it. You had absolutely no idea how this conversation would go. The furious boy you'd known was very different to the resigned teenager you'd spoken to this summer. Your stomach twisted ever tighter as the phone rang. Your first call ended unanswered, but you at least expected that much. Jeremy certainly ignored the unknown number. You redialed, waiting for him to pick up. After another extended dial tone sequence, the sound was finally replaced with a slow yawn.
Hello?
What's up, Bullcut? Hi, it's Molly.
You're actually doing this?
Molly? Haven't you suffered enough?
There was none of the fury which he'd rained down in the past, only bewilderment. I'm a glutton for punishment.
Why is this happening?
You knew that he knew what led to this call. You didn't have to explain, and he proved that shortly after with a real sigh.
Whatever. Did Shiloh ever explain his lying self?
Yeah, it worked out.
Alright then.
The conversation came to a halt. Ooh, I could ask about Pran. That would be fun. Pran or dates? Do I want to know if he's been dating? I do love Pran. Gotta leave this up to the coin. Alright, we finding about Jer Bear's love life or about Pran's bushy eyebrows? Heads for Pran, tails for dates. Hiya! Ooh, datos, alright. Sorry, Pran. Good luck to you. Been on any dates lately? Jeremy groaned in displeasure, cut through with embarrassment. That face seems to tell me yes.
I don't want to talk about that.
Cool, Jeremy. To your surprise, Jeremy piped up with a question for you.
Are you that bored? Or do you honestly have some kind of interest in me as a person?
I don't know. I mean, I literally don't know. I'm always interested in you, Jer Bear. You're an interesting person.
Huh.
Wow.
Then you heard another yawn coming down the line. Thanks for talking to me. You expected the call to end there, even had your thumb hovering over the button to finish the call, but Jeremy's voice stopped you.
Bye.
I think it's weird we actually talked to each other yet again. It makes no sense. But it's not worth having a problem with. Bye.
With that, he hung up. It had gone better than expected. And there was truth in what he said. Who would have thought that you'd reconnect like this? Life was full of surprises. You didn't have a problem with it either. There was still time left in the evening, so... Alright, fine, I'll check in on the brat. You thought of Shiloh, both as a central figure in your early childhood and as the person you'd come to know since then, and brought up his number on your phone. He picked up within a few rings.
Hi, Molly.
His voice was as peppy as ever. You wondered if everyone who called got such an excitable greeting. Hi.
This is so great.
It's so great to hear from you. I hope you're doing okay.
He raised his voice at the end, turning the statement into a question. I've missed you. Not really. Do you mean that? Everything's great.
Cool. I'm glad. I really appreciate you keeping in touch like this. You must be so busy now. Oh, before I forget, my mom says hi. She's still sad that she wasn't able to see the Wave Rider family herself.
Tell her I said hi back. You were touched that she remembered you.
Yeah.
You could hear the soft smile in his voice, even if you couldn't see it.
She was mostly just happy that I got to have a little reunion with you all. And that it went pretty well in the end.
He laughed again, firmly closing the lid on that discussion.
Yeah.
Anyway, you, your family, and Cove are always welcome to come visit us here. That'd be fun.
With everything that was going on, it was highly unlikely that you'd be able to accept that invitation. Shiloh knew that. He was probably just being nice, as he preferred to do. But as a thought... we could meet that group of yours. You grinned, imagining Shiloh with his posse of unfriendables. Unfriendables, I love that.
Great.
Awesome! Let me know if you're ever in the area.
His voice was upbeat, almost as if he'd been energized by the idea and your openness to it.
Well, I shouldn't take up too much of your time. Thanks for reaching out, though.
Be good. Shiloh chuckled briefly.
Bye!
You hung up, feeling pleased that you could simply talk to Shiloh like this. It was sweet to hear a little from his mom, too, even if the message was secondhand. The rest of the night felt like it was going by in the blink of an eye, and somehow the time came to retire to your room to sleep. Well, glad we got to catch up with those two. You pulled your covers up under your chin and settled down for the night, getting warm and cozy. As your head sank into your pillow and you closed your eyes, your mind drifted back to everything that had happened that day. You could see it all now, behind your eyelids, as though you were experiencing it all over again. And then the image of Cove popped into your head and you smiled softly to yourself. I'll send him a text. I'm not gonna do that. Come on now. Take it easy. Taking your phone from your bedside table, you lay on your back and held it above your face, typing out a message to Cove. Hi. Are you awake? He didn't reply, and you let out a defeated sigh as you locked your phone screen and let your arms fall back down. He must have fallen asleep. Suddenly, your phone buzzed in your hand, and you scrambled to check the message that had just come through. It was Cove!
Yeah, what's going on?
I'm texting you, that's what. I'm just gonna send a smiley face. What are you doing? You watch the little dots on your screen as he typed before his next message popped up on your screen.
I'm just heading to bed. Good night.
Yeah. Good night. You tapped out your reply before setting your phone down on the bedside table again and plugging in the charger. Cocooning your blankets around yourself, you snuggled into your bed and soon found yourself drifting off into a deep, restful sleep.